Okay, this is a reaction video. This is from It's JPS. Please click like, share, and subscribe for him as well as for me. I traveled around Britain, and these things shocked me. I just got back from Britain. I just got back from England. Not Britain, but England. But let's see what he has to say and see if I agree with him. Like I said, it's still fresh to me. I don't know how many of these videos I'm going to do, but let's see what he has to say.
Yo guys, what is going on? JPS back for another video, along with Winston Churchill. And today I'm going to be talking about some of the shocks I experienced from visiting the UK for the second time.
Okay, and I only went there for the first time. I was there for 5 days, well, 4 days actually, but it was still a wonderful trip.
I spent 2 weeks in Germany prior to spending 2 weeks in Britain, where I went around England and a bit of Scotland. And
I didn't see Scotland.
And saw Britain for the second time. So there were a lot.
I did see Wales though. I saw the hills of Wales when I was coming back from Bath.
A lot of things I experienced that I wasn't expecting, and I'm going to talk about those in this video. Now I have a European country to compare my experiences in Britain to, which I can't say the same about my trip last year.
Now I've been to Germany, so I can compare. Germany. I was there in 2006. Loved Germany. Loved it.
I want to take a second to remind you guys that most of the opinions formed and communicated throughout this video are based on anecdotal evidence, and to take anything I say with a grain of salt, because, again, my experiences in Britain are going to be very limited based on the fact that I haven't even spent a month in time there in total. And I have never been there for more than 2 weeks.
Look, I get that, and you're there for a couple of weeks. You know, you've not been there for even a whole month in your lifetime, and yeah, we get that. I mean, look, I was there for 4 or 5 days, and granted, I saw some things that were strange and some things that were different, but it is what it is. You know, I accepted. I rolled with the punches, and I went with the flow.
There's only so much you can see and do in that amount of time. Hopefully I'll be able to get a more in-depth experience in the future. But there still is a lot that I did experience, and I want to talk about that in today's video. So make sure you guys hit the like button, hit subscribe, and consider joining the Patreon for full reactions to British shows and movies. Along with that, I have posted the extended version of every city's vlog on Patreon. So if you want a more in-depth view of what happened on that trip, and you'd like to support me further, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, me too. Please click like, share, and subscribe for It's JPS, and please click, share, and subscribe for me as well. But let's see what he has to say.
With that being said, let's get right into the video. So guys, the first point I wanted to talk about is public transportation and trains. This time around, I was very impressed with the trains. It was super easy to find the platform I needed to be on at every city's respective train station. And on top of that, the trains were never delayed by more than a minute or two.
Yeah, that was the same in Germany. I mean, I said I took the tube, and I assume he's talking about the tube in London. It was easy to find. I went to Vauxhall, which is the closest train station where it was. It was very easy to find. I used it with City Map, but easy to find, easy to use, easy to navigate.
So I found the trains to be really on time. The stops, there were a lot of different stops, and pretty quick too. Like if I lived in Britain, I felt like, especially if I lived in a city, a car may not be necessary. And that brings me to my second point, which is the compactness of cities and city centers. I found that I didn't need to use public transport in almost any of the British cities I visited, and that walking was an adequate solution because of how compact everything was. City centers aren't just jumbled messes, they're strategically placed around historical buildings and other things like that, which we can get into the history later. But overall, I found that walking around British cities was not only easy, but also very enjoyable. You get a good view of the city on foot.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like I said, even though I used the tube a couple times and I used Uber a couple times, walking was preferable. It was easy to get along, especially when we went to the Emirates Stadium. Taking the tube there and then walking along the, getting off, not getting off at the station that's designated Arsenal, but getting off at the station before that and then walking onto the stadium was really, really easy.
This did mean I was walking a lot, but there was a lot of cobblestone I noticed. So I was super glad that I had just brought a backpack, unlike last year's trip to Britain where I had a suitcase, which was not the best for rolling around on those cobblestone when they have.
Yeah, when I had to take my suitcase, I basically took a Uber or a cab. I didn't carry around my bag along with me. I didn't do that.
Those huge gaps in between. The train stations were also really strategically placed, almost always right in city center. So my walk to wherever I needed to be was never too strenuous. There were some hills here and there, but overall I found it super easy to navigate the different cities I visited throughout Britain. The next thing I wanted to tie that into is history. In Britain, you guys have history. That's something we don't have in the United States. We
have history, just not as extensive a history as they have in Great Britain. Look, I was at St. George's Cathedral, which predates my country by about 500 or 600 years.
History, but not to the point where you walk by a church that's 700 years old and you're like, oh, that's just a church. Here it would be like a marvel to see something so old, but in Britain it's just part of everyday life to walk by these historical buildings. Now, while I was walking around and observing the history in each of these cities, I got a fair share of British weather, and it was not pretty.
No, I didn't get any British weather. And if you're talking about rain or thing like that, it was basically just a little bit chilly, but that was it. It was the weather was fine when I was there. It was in the from Fahrenheit, it was in the from like the low 40s to the mid 50s.
So the weather in Britain was the weather in Britain. You guys are used to it, but for me, I'm not used to that. I wasn't used to having to buy a jumper in July. I was like, why is it so cold and windy? Different region, but the weather was something that I could not get used to. The fact that it would just start raining randomly, and it didn't seem like meteorologists had any idea of when it would rain. The rain would kind of just come in because you're on such a narrow island that the weather changes in such a volatile manner that it's very difficult to predict, and rain would just come swooping in. And it always felt like the rain, this is of course some type of psychological effect, but it always felt like the rain would come, I'm not going to say pissing down, raining down, whenever you needed to go outside. And when you wanted to be inside...
I actually didn't suffer any rain when I was there. That's interesting. Because like I said, I know they have rain in July and everything like that. I get all that. But I didn't deal with any rain when I was there.
Be nice and sunny outside. And then when I come home and hop off the plane, it's 38 degrees Celsius, sunny, 90% humidity. And I'm like, did I just walk into a tropical rainforest? Why is it so... Because I just was so used to that British weather. You guys have a much more tame summer compared to us, which I say, but there has been heat waves here and there.
Well, look, when I first flew to Germany, okay, I was for whatever reason, I don't know why, I was under the impression that the United States was here and Europe was here. Well, no, Europe is actually up here. Okay, so that's why. Okay.
And you guys just aren't ready for the heat waves. I definitely. Last summer, I was kind of frustrated with the lack of air conditioning because I was like, well, what are you supposed
They don't need air conditioning up there in England. They really don't.
to do in situations like this? And there isn't much to do. You kind of just
Although the hotel I stayed at actually had air conditioning.
sweat it out. But I definitely understood that this summer because it really doesn't get hot too often. And it's like, that's not a very economical solution. So the next thing I wanted to get into is alcohol and pubs.
Strangely, I didn't get to make it to a pub this go around. Hopefully, I'll go to a pub when I'm there. But I do know a lot about English pubs. I know how they work and everything like that.
The pubs honestly made me a bit envious throughout the trip because I realized how much of a focal point they are for their communities. The pub is a place you could just go and talk to your neighbor, get to know your neighbor, and just enjoy a pint. It's not really about the partying as much as it is the sense of community and having the Sunday roast and things like that. So I didn't really get that in last year's trip, but this year I feel like I got a better grasp on the role of pubs. Again, that's not every pub, but it did feel like the pubs were like a get a drink after work, or we'll meet here on Sunday and have a pint and talk. Like it's a much more calm environment. So the pubs are something I really wish we had in the United States.
Well, we kind of do, but they're just not like they are in England. They just aren't as well developed as they are in England. It just is what it is. But we do have pubs in the United States, just not as many, and they're just not as well developed as they are in England.
We have bars and things like that, and we do have pubs. They're Americanized Irish pubs, but we don't really have a pub in every community, and I think that's something I definitely miss out on here is the sense of community, especially where I live. And that's something that's shared across the country. We're just
again, also, in the United States, it's a massive country. There's Lawrence Lost of the Pond basically shows how big the United States is compared to England. England is a very small country compared to the United States. And,
very every man for himself. We have huge properties, everything's spread out. Not everyone has a huge property, of course, but that's the whole American dream, right? It's to live in a suburban neighborhood with your property, your garage, your truck, your family, your dog. That's a typical American family, and most Americans would agree with that, which is unfortunate. But
not really. I don't think it's that bad, but it's compared to what you experienced in England, I can understand why you would say that.
Along with the pubs being a bit more tame, the Brits certainly were not very tame with alcohol throughout the trip, especially in cities like Newcastle, where there was a police woman or man on every corner.
Now, I noticed there was that in Germany, but that was during the World Cup, and that was to make sure that everybody was safe.
Every corner, literally, because of how rowdy they got and how many fights there were. So Brits.
Now, I got to experience Newcastle fans in London for the League Cup. I ran to a few of them when I was there. I went to the Arsenal Chelsea game, but I did get experience some Geordies when I was there.
Definitely get pissed. There's definitely people who drink within their limits, but there's a lot of people who don't drink within their limits and who get absolutely wasted. And it's just, I think it's just the British nature, Sometimes, and I'm not saying everyone gets messed up, but there were a lot of people who were pretty drunk, more drunk people than I was used to. The Brits just like to party. I get it, You're on a little island. What else is there to do? To get drunk. I mean, it's not like it's different in other places. It's just your drinking age is 18, so it's a lot easier to get drunk.
Yeah, it is. And again, like I said, I saw a few drunkards myself. Wasn't anything more than I'd seen in the United States, to be fair. But they do like to party.
So the next point is actually a point that I made in last year's video that I wanted to correct. In last year's video, I made a point about cigarettes and smoking. I said that smoking in Britain, especially among younger generations, was much worse than I was used to in the United States.
Now, to be fair, I saw a lot of more smoking in Germany than I saw in in England. I saw some smokers, but not as many as I expected to see. But certainly not as many as they were in Germany. Germany, they smoke like chimneys there.
States. And while I'm not sure about the metrics, I don't even know if there's a point in checking it because I'm sure it's different among different sources and it's been updated and this, that, and the third. I do know that the cigarette smoking in Britain is not nearly as bad as the cigarette smoking in Germany. And this is why
I say it here, it comes out there. Fantastic.
Why visiting another European country gave me a much different perspective on Britain in certain aspects, because you get to see what they're doing and be like, well, what they're doing is not nearly as much as that.
In fact, I felt like I was in the United States when it came to smoking cigarettes, because there was no smoking in inside places and things like that. Now, granted, I didn't make it to a pub where they may have been smoking. I don't know. But there wasn't a lot of smoking where I was.
So there was a lot less cigarette smoking in Britain than I expected. Was there still cigarettes? Yes. But among younger generations, when I went out to bars and nightclubs and things, cigarettes were not the main choice. Rather, they've been replaced by a substitute, which is vaping. And vaping,
yeah, that is a big thing in Europe. Where they have vaping,
was enormous among kids my age that I saw in Britain. Almost, again, completely anecdotal, but a lot of kids I saw my age had a vape in their hand. Is this for better or for worse? I don't know. I'm not here to say this is so bad, everyone's vaping. Like, no, that's not my point. My point is just to point it out and be like, wow, there was a lot of vaping among younger kids and a lot less cigarette use. Seems like the cigarettes are still big among older generations and still big among some kids on nights out. But during the day, you know, when you're walking around during the day, I didn't see, I don't know if I could point a finger to many teenagers I saw smoking cigarettes. Whereas in Germany, it didn't matter what time it was.
Yeah, in Germany, I remember my dad and I were in a train car, and there were literally only, I think, 5 people in the train car, including my dad and I. Okay, so 3 people. And we sat in the back, and the other 3 people sat in the front. And there was just so much smoke in the air, my dad had to get up and leave because he couldn't take it. It was very, very badly. But in Germany, oh my God, they smoke like chimneys there.
People were smoking cigarettes, so that's a big difference. I can point out. I'm not going to compare it to my experience in the United States because I have a very unique experience in the United States, and I can't really speak for cigarette smoking. So I may have been a bit wrong last summer when I said that, but that's the beauty of going back and being able to change your opinion on things. You can always change your opinion on things. Next point made me chuckle a bit, and that is Tesco and the meal deals. The scary part about the meal deals, guys, I got a meal deal every single day I was in Britain. I was in Britain for 2 weeks. On the 14th day, the last day that I was flying out, I got a meal deal, and I was not tired of it. That is the scary part about those Tesco meal deals. We do not have the equivalent in the United States. We don't.
I have no idea what he's talking about. Didn't have a Tesco meal deal. I have no idea what those are.
Don't have something like that where you get that much value for your pound or dollar. But it just didn't get old. There were just so many different options for your main course, so many different crisps, so many different beverages. It was a never-ending stream of goodness.
Now, when I got something to eat, I either got room service at the hotel, which is what I had for dinner a couple nights in a row, or I went to the grocery store and I got a sandwich or something like that, which was very, very, very convenient, very friendly, and very cheap as well. I really enjoyed that.
And I definitely miss that now. We just don't have something like that, so I can see why you guys hold that Tesco meal deal very highly. I really enjoyed it while I was there. So a big thing I noticed on this trip specifically was how similar British people are to American people. We're really similar. Like, I felt I was able.
Well, again, this is almost like you described what Vinny Vegas said to Jules in Pulp Fiction. You know, they have the same thing over there that we have over here. And we're not different. We really aren't. I mean, that's one of the things that I did notice is how similar English people are to Americans. But not completely similar, not the same like, but they are similar.
To connect with Brits much easier than I was with Germans because there's just not that much. First of all, we speak the same language, so that helps, of course. A lot of Germans speak English, but there's just so many cultural similarities. They're not exactly similar, but they're so similar that they're almost identical, you know, like in the way we do things. A perfect example would be small talk. In the United States, we ask, "How are you? How are you doing?" In Britain, you ask, "Are you all right?" Does anyone actually care when you ask, "Are you all right?" You know, when you say it, you're never expecting a response. It's just a greeting almost. So that was one thing I noticed was like really similar between Americans and Britain and British people. Sorry, not Britain. And I talked about this with some Brits. I was like, you know, we're so similar. Like, what is this about? And they talked about this cultural wave effect where a lot of pop culture and trends, they come from.
Yeah, that may be it. I mean, again, I just think we're just similar because we are. I mean, we're human beings. We do the same things. We eat, sleep, we use the bathroom, the whole 9 yards. I mean, we just there are differences in England. They drive on the wrong side of the road, or I call it the wrong side of the left. They drive on the left. We drive on the right. It's just the little things, the subtle things that are changed. But for the most part, we're human beings. We do the same things.
From the United States, they hit Britain first, and then there's this kind of spectrum throughout Europe where Eastern Europe gets hit last, and and the Western European countries get hit after Britain. But that was pretty cool to hear, and I think I definitely saw that a lot. It doesn't mean you guys copy us and wait for our every next move and that we're better than you. That was not what I said, and in fact, I was quoting a British person, so be bad at him, not me.
No, I don't think that's what you were saying. I got what you were saying. I understand exactly what you were saying. So, but I'm an American, so I'm not a British guy. So, again, I don't think he said anything wrong or disrespectful there.
I'm sure I'm missing some things, and there's definitely a lot more to dissect from the trip, but that will come in due time. If you guys have any things you would like me to talk about specifically that you noticed from my experiences in Britain, then please leave them in the comments down below. Hopefully we're going to get back into some reactions soon. And yeah, that's all I got to say, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Hit the like button. Hit subscribe.
Yeah, please like, share, and subscribe for It's JPS. I traveled around Britain. These things shocked me. Please click like, share, and subscribe for him as well as for me. And have a good rest of your day. Thanks for watching.